ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुर्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। We are starting chapter number 8. This is about 5
Number
limbs
10,
of...
10 Gurmaj. Number 10.
Okay. What did I do? Yeah. Okay, here it is. So after describing the two kinds of Raganuga Bhakti, that is, spontaneous devotional service can be divided into Sambandhanuga and Kamanuga. Kama means desire, the one that depends upon the desire. But Sambandhanuga is very important. What the relationships are better, and these examples have been given. That if we are inspired by the love of young gopis of Raja, that is Kamanuga, while if we aspire for the loving sentiments of the other Brijvasis, means besides the gopis, their relatives, so this way it is understood. Then the sadhakas are also termed as Kamanuga sadhaka or following in the footsteps of other than gopis, other Brijvasis, you know. So and to develop the thirst of the sadhaka, develop the thirst of sadhaka, if it is developed to follow the gopi, is of also two kinds, the Ichha and Sambhoga. So, Sambhogecha and Taddat Bhavichatmayi. So, this we have discussed, and Sambhogechamai is lesser, but Taddad Bhavicha Chatma, that is more preferable because of the resultant ecstasy is to follow a manjari means lesser than the direct, participant, means assisting. Even Radharani are the Sakhis, and Sakhis are help, and they have helpers called Manjaris. So it is better to follow a Manjari. And Raghunath Das Goswami is expressing all that in a very clear way. Mm. I offer my respectful obeisances to your friendship again and again, but may I find your service as sweet as nectar. Uh, so that was described that Tad Bhavat Chatma, Tad Bhavet Chatma is uh, more relishable. Mm. So then we also understood that sadhana bhakti spiritually transformed devotees' bodies. Means we are reaching to the Siddha Deha, and Siddha Dehas is getting much more uh, definitive progress. So, Rupa Goswami refers to the candidates for Kamagna Bhakti with the word Yah, means anyone who, which indicates either man or woman. A man can also have the desire, and woman can also desire. So that requires very regulated practice of very regulated devotion. I'm just overlooking the different steps that we studied. The example has been given for, in Vaidhi Bhakti, the desire or kama can be of having uh, aspiration of conjugal relationship with Krishna, like that of Dwarka's queens. They do not want to become gopi. Gopi is much more intimate. And swakiya and parakiya rasas. So Parakiya Ras has been said to be higher than Swakiya. Swakiya means Krishna's own Dwarka means. Of course, we have not come to that particular terminology, Swakiya and Parakiya. Today we are starting chapter number 10 with word of caution that is to be understood because where the pitfall would be, what kind of alertness we have to keep in adopting this internal meditation system to highlight certain pitfalls in the practice of Raganuga Bhakti and to summarize what I have written in the context of Srila Prabhupada's teachings to ISKCON. I concluded this short book with 2 further chapters entitled Words of Caution and the Summary. Some 5 millennia ago, Krishna appeared on the earth with his eternal associates, and together they displayed unprecedented pastimes of love. Yet the Lord spoke of those pastimes only uh, indirectly to Arjun, and directly but in confidence to Uddhava. केवलेन ही भावेन गोप्यो गावो नागमृग नगामृग ये अन्ये मूढ़धियो नागाः सिद्धा माम इयुर अंजसा. The inhabitants of Vrindavan, including the gopis, cows, unmoving creatures, such as the twin Arjuna trees, animals, living entities with stunted consciousness, such as the bushes and thickets, and snakes, such as Kaliya, all achieved the perfection of life by unalloyed love for me, and thus very easily achieved me. This is the quotation of Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 12th chapter, 8th verse. Shri Krishna knew well the risk involved in publicizing the highest mellows of devotional service, notably the conjugal love, in the days preceding the dawn of Kali Yuga. Therefore, he left it to the highly qualified devotees to find the path to Vraja Bhakti themselves. They could do so this through hearing of his pastimes and scrutinizingly Vedic literature. So, everything should be done in the mood of following some Brajvasis for that practice. Now, that particular narration that Krishna says that even Kaliya got love of Godhead. But Brajagopi's bhava was completely different. But even by Krishna's admission, that indirect approach had little result. Oh, this is the refer to Krishna said, for a long time I have not bestowed unalloyed loving devotional service, loving service to me upon the inhabitants of the world. Without such loving attachments, an existence of the material world is useless. To which Srila Prabhupada later comments that after his appearance, Lord Krishna thought that he had not distributed the transcendental personal dealings with his devotees in Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. This is the Chaitanya Charitamritam Adi Leela, third chapter 14th verse and third chapter 16th verse respectively. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to descend, Krishna was thinking in Goloka Vrindavan that Kali Yuga has already begun and I have not distributed anything that invokes towards the love of Godhead in people. So, but even by Krishna's admission that indirect approach had little results, Braj Bhakti remains a mysterious subject for advanced scholars. What to speak of the distracted populace of this dark age? Krishna then appeared again as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to glorify spontaneous devotion, show the means of attaining it, and reveal the key to both attainment and practice. Nama Sankirtana. The Lord's most confidential associate, Swarup Damodar Goswami, wrote, Anarbita charim chirat karnaya avataranaha kalau samarpayitom unnatojjvala rasam swabhaktim sriyam haripurata sundaradhyuti kadambad sandipte hai सदा हृदय स्कंदरे स्फुरतौ वह सचिनंदन. May the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Sachidevi, be transcendently situated in the innermost chamber of your heart, resplendent with the radiance of the molten gold. He has appeared in this age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever offered before, the most sublime and radiant mellows of devotional service, the mellows of conjugal love. This has been quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, first chapter, fourth verse is there. This Sarup Damodar Goswami's verse is very famous. Anarpita charim charat karannaya avatirna kalau samarpayitam unnatojjvala rasam swabhaktim shriyam harihi puratar sundara dyuti kadamba sandiptaha sada hridaya kandare spuratau va sachinandana. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is bestowing no incarnation has ever offered before the most sublime and radiant mellows of devotional service, the mellows of conjugal love. So we have to learn from Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in Vrajavasi name Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's lotus feet. Yet, even in the Lord's presence, pseudo devotees and academics began to hide the truth of his teachings. A mischief that gained further traction after Lord Chaitanya's disappearance. Very quickly, a shroud of ignorance settled over the world, a shroud that only the preaching of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates and followers could eradicate. With the mission of the Lord in the mind, Acharyas from Rupa Goswami to Srila Prabhupada worked tirelessly to write books on the and preach the path of pure devotion. Similarly, their similarly pure teachings emphasize that detachment from all that is material and chanting in the mood of separation were criteria for spontaneous devotion that led to Radha Krishna and their associates. This is the principle that we have to understand. That this paragraph is based on concluding words of Harinama Chintamani also, that uh, even in Lord's presence, that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's presence, pseudo devotees and academics began to hide the truth of his teaching, a mischief that gained further traction after Lord Chaitanya's disappearance. Very quickly, a shroud of ignorance settled over the world, a shroud that only the preaching of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates and followers could eradicate. Means unless and until we accept the uh, intimate associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as eternally liberated people, then and then we will be able to go to Sanat Maharajananda in Vrindavan. With the mission of the Lord in mind, Acharyas from Rupa Goswami and Srila Prabhupada, they worked tirelessly to write the books on and preach the path of pure devotion. Their similarly pure teachings emphasize that the detachment from all that is material and chanting in the mood of separation were criteria for the spontaneous devotion that led to Radha Krishna and their associates. So, the aim of our chanting is to develop uh, the chanting in the mood of separation from Radha Krishna. And that separation should bring tears to our eyes while chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, Acharyas also warned of the pitfalls that practitioner would encounter in sadhana bhakti in general and raganuga bhakti in particular. So caution has to be there. So Goswamis cautioned the devotees on the philosophical misconceptions, deviant practices, and the sahajiyas who embrace both. Sahajiyas are with philosophical misconception is there, and their practice is devious. Deviant practices means uh, they become bodily conscious. Sahajiyas embrace both. Philosophically, they are wrong, and by practice also they are, uh, you know, having the fault. Although greed is undeniable qualification for Raganuga sadhana, because it is an internal emotion, it is not so easily distinguished from an interest or in the false exhibition of raga. To identify whether greed has truly appeared, scriptures and acharyas have highlighted other accompanying qualities that visibly indicate its presence. Greed. Greed is to be recognized, but how would you recognize greed? It has arisen. How do we recognize that really we have become greedy?
Gurmaj says a description in Nectar of Devotion, chapter 18, where Rupa Goswami lists 9 qualities of devotees in ecstatic love that can't be copied by sahajiyas, like anxious to use time and all his time in devotional service. And like that, there's 9 qualities.
9 qualities uh, that are developed during the sadhana. By practice, automatically the increment will be there, reaching to the greed. To identify whether greed has truly appeared, scriptures and acharyas have highlighted other accompanying qualities that visibly indicates its presence. So, Vidur states that a symptom of covetousness is indifferent to anything that is not related to pure devotional service. In other words, the taste for Vraj Bhakti appears where there is no taste for sense gratification. In the same way, Jiva Goswami concludes his dissertation on the Raganuga Bhakti by saying, Kintu rahasya lila tu paurusha vikaravad indriyahi pitra putra dasa bhavaischa nopasya. That the devotee who continues to feel presence of enjoying the spirit of male feelings, paurusha vikara, should not contemplate the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, meaning they lack the qualification for doing so. Paurusha vikar. This is the reference of Bhakti Sandarbha, 3rd chapter, 38th verse. Jiva Goswami is a very staunch then. And this is something that Paurusha Vikar has been said, that in reading or meditating on Radha Krishna, if the Paurusha Vikar or Kama Vikar arises, then he should stop. And Prabhupada was very angry. Stop it, rascal. You don't have enough understanding. Then you can't think of your Paurush Vikar. If it is continued, then you are disqualified to enter into the Raga Bhakti. Means if we have male feelings, Paurusha, we should not contemplate the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, meaning they lack the qualification for doing so. Finally, we should recall the Raganuga Bhakti is dependent on remembering Krishna and his associates. Krishnam Smaranam Janam Chasya. This is also described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, first canto, second chapter, 294th verse. Uh, all right. Now it is better. Finally, we should recall that Raganuga Bhakti is dependent on remembering Krishna and his associates, right? But constant remembrance is possible only when the heart has been sufficiently purified through regulated devotional service. Where such purification is absent, meditation on Krishna Lila will be fragmented and unproductive. In such circumstances, the sadhak will make better use of his time and efforts to intensely uh, concentrate on Vaidhi Bhakti in order to achieve the prerequisite purity of the heart. So, unless and until our heart is purified from plain sex desire, and especially Paurusha bhav, means Paurusha. Paurusha means uh, male enjoying instinct. Uh, Even women have Paurusha bhav. Uh, so, Paurusha bhav means you want to be enjoyer, and instead of the service will naturally bring uh, enjoyment. Means by offering oneself in the service of the manjari to particular gopi who is serving intimately Sri Krishna through Radharani. So this sequential, approach can be only possible if we, eradicate the Paurusha bhav. And he should go back to his sadhana bhakti. If he is failing uh, in continuity of uh, the ecstasy, instead he gets disturbed. Better he stop it. So the question is, Raganuga Bhakti is dependent on remembering Krishna and his associate, Krishnam Saranam Janam Chasya. But constant remembrance is possible only when the heart has been sufficiently purified through regulated devotional service, such as with such qualification is absent, then meditation on Krishna Lila will be fragmented and unproductive. In such circumstances, the sadhaka will make better use of his pastime, of his times and efforts to intensify, concentrate on Vaidhi Bhakti in order to achieve the prerequisite purity of the heart. Srila Prabhupada and his predecessors were all concerned that sadhakas who are attracted by the service of Brajvasi not identify themselves as being that particular Brajvasi. Rupa Goswami's emphasis is always on being a follower. Vraja loka anusarataha. Vraja loka anusarataha. That is the verse in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, first canto, second chapter, 295th verse is there. Our identity as Krishna's servant is eternal, and so is that of his associates. Therefore, it is doubly artificial to try to adopt the identity of one of Krishna's dear companions. Our identity as Krishna's servant is eternal, and so is that of the associates. So, it becomes artificial, doubly artificial to try to adopt the identity of one of Krishna's dear companions. It's a false imitation. This is also described. The phrase doubly artificial means that it is once artificial to give up our own eternal identity, which simply needs to be discovered. And secondly, it is artificial to try to assume someone else's equally eternal identity. It means to imitate somebody without connection. We imitate by imagination. So it's a double artificial. So it is doubly artificial to try to adopt the identity of one of Krishna's dear companions. Since the attempt to become Nanda Maharaj, for example, is just like to attempt by some Gyanis to become Krishna. This ideology is Mayavad and against the principle of pure devotion. Somebody wants to play the role, assuming that he is Nanda Maharaj. That's bad. Another pitfall that Acharya repeatedly warns us about the imitating the activities of Brajvasis in one's sadhaka deha. It is to be practiced only in the siddha deha, but in sadhaka deha, meaning transporting activity of the mind to bodily action. The idea is to imitate without perfection and to put in a role play of some Brijvasi. So both are imperfect. For example, the gopis worship the sun god and the goddess Kali. Vaishnavas, however, should not worship demigods. Krishna has instructed Arjuna that such conduct is non-benefiting those learned in devotion. Antavantu phalam tesham tad bhavatyam alpametasam. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods and their fruits are limited and temporary. This is in Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, 23rd verse. Similarly, while the Brajvasis do not follow Ekadashi, do not worship Shalagram Shilas, and do not formally take initiation, we in this world cannot mimic their conduct and never try to initiate a Brajvasi. They are our gurus. We can't become their gurus. So never attempt. Rather, as Rupa Goswami has instructed, we must follow the conduct of Brijvasis in their sadhaka form. For example, Gopal Bhatta Goswami is the sadhak form of Gunamanjari or Ananga Manjari. Yet he accepted initiation from Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur, worshipped Shalagram Shilas under Lord Chaitanya's order, and meticulously followed the vow of Ekadashi. That is, Gopal Bhatta Goswami did. The worship of Shalagram is an element of regulated devotion, and so some devotees mistakenly think that such service to the Lord is against the mood of the spontaneous devotion, bhava pratikula, and should be rejected. However, Lord Chaitanya himself ordered Gopal Bhatta Goswami to worship the sacred stones, the shilas. Therefore, such worship is an acceptable part of Gaudiya Vaishnava practice. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ordered to Gopal Bhatta Goswami to worship Shalagram. The practicing devotees are meant to follow the conduct of such Mahajanas or risk becoming ostracized from the community of pure devotees, as was one Hita Harivamsa at the time of Goswamis of Vrindavan. Ha ha! Hita Harivamsa was ostracized from the community of pure devotees at the time of the Goswamis of Vrindavan. It's the same Hit Harivamsa whose temple is called Radha Vallabha. So Radha Vallabhi Sampradaya, they were not following the conduct of such Mahajans. And they were ostracized by pure devotees of Vrindavan. This reference is that Hita Harivamsa was a disciple of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. However, when his heterodoxical practices of chewing betel nut and abstaining from Ekadashi came to light, his guru rejected him for imitating the behavior of Brajvasis. Thereafter, Hita Harivamsa became even more deviant and was shunned by the Goswamis of his times as his lineage today. This is where Premananda is fitting. The Sadhu Premananda from nowhere joined Hita Harivamsa's Radha Vallabhi Sampradaya, which is a Sahajiya Sampradaya, by taking initiation from the Pujari. who are chewing betel nut offered to Krishna. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu forbade us. You accept it, but you put it in nirmalya, the sacred throwouts. Many people, even the devotees, the sadhus, they offer betel nut to Lord Krishna and Srinathji. And that betel nut can be offered to the devotees who are advanced. So when I was installing Srinathji in the year 1983, we did. But prior to that, I would go to Nathadwara and get some information from the Mukhyajis. Mukhyajis means the chief priest of Nathadwara. And several occasions they give us betel nut as Mahaprasad. We accept, but we do not chew. If you open up the betel nut, there will be nothing but the fennel seeds are there. No chuna, no katha, nothing. But betel nut itself is intoxicating because it has oxalic acid crystals. And to chew betel nut is not healthy for the body. So if somebody offers you, you accept it, but hold it and do not put in your mouth. Put it in the nirmalya, the sacred throwouts. That is the instruction. So we can understand Radha Vallavi Sampradaya or Hitahari Vansh, why he was ostracized. The most obvious form of transgression can be seen in Vrindavan today, where some pseudo-Vaishnava dressed like Vrajavasis. These are men who dress as gopis, mistakenly thinking that this oversimplification of following a Vrajavasi gains them entrance into Krishna Lila. On the contrary, they remain materially grounded, laughing stocks of the saint, and a blight to the Vaishnava community. They are undisputed Prakrita Sahajiyas. Have you seen the big police officer? He was SPG and he resigned just to become a gopi in Barsana. He would dress, but he ended up begging for money in the gopi dress. That is not the function, it's a sahajiya. And it becomes a blight in the Vaishnava community. Blight means black spot in Vaishnava community. They are undisputed Prakrita Sahajiya. Thank you, Shivram Maharaj, for shedding some light on the present day conditions of Vrindavan. Devotees can never interchange the external conduct of the sadhaka rupa for the internal activities of siddha rupa. This is the cardinal principle. Cannot interchange the external conduct of the sadhaka rupa for internal activities of siddha rupa. The next hazard for practicing devotees is to reject scriptures or to reject following the principles of regulated devotional recommended in the scriptures. Just because Raganuga Bhakti is inspired not by scriptural injunction but by natural attraction does not mean devotees are not under guidance of scriptures. To the contrary, the path of spontaneity is set out in the scriptures alone. Why do you reject the scriptures? So this is the caution that you cannot be, simply dragged into such activities by neglecting scriptural injunction. That becomes uh, an offense on the holy name itself. Number 4, to blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of Vedic version. When Srila Prabhupada makes statements like these Raganuga devotees do not follow the regulative principles of devotional service very strictly, he does not mean to say that Raganuga devotees can pick and choose regulated principles, ignoring them at will. This is the reference of Nectar of Devotion, chapter number 16. Rather, His divine grace refers to shunning those practices that are unfavorable for spontaneous devotion. Bhava pratikula, ignoring some elements of Dharma Shastra, like obligation to one's forefathers and neglecting details of Pancharatrika standards, as in the case of laying down in the temple in ecstasy. That's bad. Ignoring injunction of morality are expressed in the verse beginning with Deva Rishi Bhutapta Nranam Pitrunam Nayam Kinkaro Chanarapatim Charajan Sarvatmanaya Sharanam Sharanyam Gato Mukundam Parirutya Kutyam. It's an obligatory thing. And thinking oneself that because he has become devotee, he is neglectfully can throw away all other recipient of our obligation, our payment back to their obligation. So, you should know Hit Harivans was a disciple of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. All right. So his contemporary, but his heterodoxical practices means transgressing the common practice not to accept the betel nut for chewing. You can receive as Mahaprasad, but don't chew. That is a Sahajiya practice. And Hita Harivams was chewing the betel nut and also abstaining from Ekadashi. When he was seen transgressing, Gopal Bhatt Goswami himself rejected him for imitating the behavior of Vrajavasis. Thereafter, Hita Harivans became even more deviant and was shunned by the Goswamis of his time, as is his lineage. So, unfortunately, many Gujaratis are following Hita Harivans Sahajiya movement. They are called Radha Vallabhi Sampradaya. We have discussed this quite often. And to take advantage of nobody is in charge of that sampradaya. Premanand Baba of Vrindavan. He got initiation from the Pujari of Radha Vallabh deities. Recently, from nowhere he came, no lineage, but he became very famous. And he has been taking the whole Vrindavan at storm. At odd hours in the night, you know, thousands of people line up just to greet him because he goes uh, for Yamuna Snan or Parikrama. Uh, it's a miracle, Baba. People are, impressed that many of our senior devotees also went to see it. I don't know for what, but this is the story. Oh, we did not know. Ignorance is no excuse. So, this is the caution that ISKCON should not be dragged by this kind of sahajiyas. Mm. So, when Srila Prabhupada makes statements like, these Raganuga devotees do not follow the regulative principles of devotional service very strictly, he does not mean to say that the Raganuga devotees can pick and choose regulated principles, ignoring them at will. Rather, His Divine Grace refers to shunning those practices that are unfavorably for spontaneous devotional service, devotional. The Bhava Pratikula ignores some elements of Dharma Shastras, like obligation to one's forefathers and neglecting details of Pancharatika standards, as in those case of uh, lying down in the temple in ecstasy, roll around in the temple in ecstasy, uh, should be avoided. Over exhibition of sahajiya nature, while even dancing in Hare Krishna Mahamantra, sometimes we see disturbing elements. So such practices should be uh, avoided because uh, ecstasy is different thing from the temporary, you know. Uh, I know uh, when we opened up uh, Fiji temple, Abhishek and everything was complete. The dressing was also complete, and there was time to open for the first darshan and arti. I was very watchful. Uh, Before the curtain opened, uh, I came out to see the crowd, to greet them, that yes, now the time has come to have the first darshan. So naturally, there were some Sahajiyas. One Mataji came in front and started, showing the ecstatic symptoms to get the attraction of others. And I remember Srila Prabhupada gave instruction to some devotees that if some Sahajiyas appear and they become the center of attraction instead of the deities, better hold their hand and push them out outside of the temple and tell, show your ecstasy there, never come inside. You know. Given that there are valid reasons to neglect certain regulated practice, neither those qualified nor those unqualified to do so should make such ado about their exceptional conduct. It should remain a confidential affair in keeping with the principles established by the Lord. Naitat parasma akheyam prasthapi prasthapyapi kathanchana sarvam sampadayate devi devaguhyam shushram vantam. Oh lady, even if someone inquires, you should not disclose his fact to anyone. That which is very confidential is successful if kept secret. Aside from the examples above, Raganuga sadhakas and preferred or perfected devotees alike follow the edicts of regulated devotion service so as to set a proper example of others. Even Krishna, who is far beyond regulatory obligations, embraces this principle himself and expects his devotees to do the same. Yadyadacharate shrestha tatta evetaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokadastano vartate. Whatever actions a great man performs, the common men follow, and whatever standards he set by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. This is in Bhagavad Gita. Third chapter, 21st to 26 verses. It's a series of verses which Krishna allows those who set an example for the benefit of those who are not equally mature in Krishna consciousness. Devotees must remain faithful to the codes of proper conduct prescribed by scriptures. If they are neglectful, they will degrade to the level of those Sahajiyas who smoke intoxicants and engage in illicit sex on the reasoning that the only sin for Raganuga devotees is Vaishnava Aparad. Need we say any more about such fallacies? Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur further elaborates on some misconceptions held by would-be Raganuga Bhaktas who lack the most fundamental understanding of devotional service. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj said that the following misconception and deviations attributed to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati are based on the book Prakruta Rasa Satadushani. This is the reference of the book Prakruta Rasa Satadushani. There are 100 dushan. Dushan means wrong practices. Prakrita Rasa Satadushani. Since the foundation of spiritual advancement is transcendental knowledge, devotees must be well versed in the teachings of scriptures. An understanding of one's relationship with Krishna, Sambandha Gyan, is essential to qualify one to cultivating that relationship, and sadhana means cultivation. Therefore, without Sambandha Gyan, there is no question of Raganuga Bhakti, and Sambandha Gyan is imparted in the first initiation. Sambandha Gyan. You are establishing the relationship by the Diksha ceremony. So one must be taught the relationship. Now, there are 5 types of relationship, but Sambandha Gyan is already established that we can develop up to the highest rasa. Without Sambandha Gyan, one cannot jump up and assume one's internal identity. So, I would like to stop here. And this is a very important understanding we should keep in mind. And at least the issue of Premanand Baba should terminate in this particular today's class. That will be a great achievement, and you give importance of reasoning and preventing those becoming sahajas. They may speak high of Srila Prabhupada, that is their selling point, but they follow Premanand Baba because he has achieved the ecstatic love. Now, fundamentally, the adherence to Apasampradaya is there, and the reasoning is there. We cannot promote that. So, anybody has any question and comment?
Hare Krishna, Gurmaj. A couple of questions from Asita Raja Prabhu.
Yes.
His first question, can Ritviks be considered as Sahajiyas?
Yes, absolutely. I was going to mention at that time. That is Apasampradaya. Apasampradaya is pushing the agenda on external activities of success, money-making scams. Those who are following strictly they would want to uplift the humanity towards the spiritual emancipation, starting by providing prasadam. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hani rasyopajayate. All the ignorance should be removed by taking prasadam. One becomes completely fearless by consumption of prasadam. The children, midday meal, and they cannot chant Hare Krishna, assuming the commercially manufactured prasad, as prasad, will turn them spirituality. Mechanical practices cannot turn into spiritual thing. because there are satisfaction of Lord Krishna is not targeted. Maybe satisfaction of the government is targeted, or satisfaction of children is targeted. But you cannot target the soul. You cannot chant Hare Krishna by feeding them and describe that this is called mercy of the Lord. It is a sahajiya mentality, superficial, cheap adoration. Cheap adoration. If Madhu
Yes.
Pandit can get uh, the best of the honors of government as Padma Bhushan, we compare to the same kind of award was given to Sri Nandan Nandana Prabhu by the same government this year, recently, who is a good friend of mine, and solely he served the cause of Srila Prabhupada by writing books with historical references and pushing the agenda of overall Vaishnava as well as Hinduistic, Sikh and this the places of worship which has been destroyed. So it was a great service to the government. He became good friends with Vishwa Hindu Parishad's people as well as RSS. They would call him, pay for his airfare from Detroit to come, and he was giving lectures. And they loved him. And that's why he got. And he told me just a few days back before I left Vrindavan, I met him. He was there. So I was the one to provide him the Taj Mahal photographs, which I obtained through in Chandigarh. And he was very appreciative. Maharaj, he started his career of writing an approach to the Hindu cause, and he got the award. But both the awards are on different grounds. One, he is not deviating. Madhu Pandit is deviating. So what is the value? Transgressing the desire of Srila Prabhupada or overriding the desire of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada's, the temple of Vedic planetarium is 350 feet. Madhu Pandit came. I will make this temple. You all go. I'll complete and in the service of. And sorry, Prabhu, you can't transgress the desire of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada explicitly told Ambarish Prabhu, the son, a great grandson of Henry Ford, to do this temple. And why do you have to replace him? And second thing, oh, okay, then I will do another temple in Vrindavan. I have so much money, I will make double the size of what Prabhupada's temple of TOVP is coming up. So 700 feet tall, double. Do you think it's a spiritual thing or an envious mentality of competing unnecessarily? Where is the spirituality? It's a deviation. Ritviks is Ritualism is a deviation. How could you accept a deviant philosophy and practice?
Another question of his, Gurmaj, can we still go to Sri Radha Vallabh temple to have darshan of Jewel and Yatra?
They may decorate it, you know. How do you see that to have darshan and then to follow their, you know, instructions? Prabhupada wanted us to limit our visitations only to the 7 temples. Having darshan of 7 temples is most productive because they are not the temples of deviants. Even if you go to Radha Vallabh temple or Banke Bihari temple, Banke Bihari temple is also very famous, but we will not appreciate much of the process of overflowing money and no preaching. They become professional kathakars. That is not, a desirable thing. It's better to go to our 7 temples. Of course, the Goswamis of Radharaman, they also started preaching like ISKCON by taking shelter of the ISKCON establishments throughout the world to propagate their lineage. And that was becoming objectionable. They would not speak anything ill about Srila Prabhupada, but nonetheless, they would utilize the merits of the association of Srila Prabhupada. Of course, they are not spreading that much, but then it created a disturbance. Pundarik Goswami and others, they were going, So they may speak something else with glorification of Srila Prabhupada also. So it is better to stick to our own. Okay?
Yes. Gurmaj, there's one question from Sudharma Mataji.
Yes.
She was saying you read about paying oblations to one's forefathers. Can you explain more on that? As devotees, what are our duties in that?
Oblations are best offered through chanting Hare Krishna and giving the benefits to the departed soul so they can be liberated. That's a good prayer. But we do not have to perform, those procedures seemingly of Pancharatriki Vidhi, but they are done by Mayavadi priest and others just to satisfy that we did according to the tradition. But Kali Yuga, those practices are superficial only. And it is a farce and became the business. So it is better to give our our spiritual strength to the forefathers so they can make faster progress in their salvation. Got idea?
She says, thank you, Guru Maharaj. There was one comment Asita Raja Prabhu wrote earlier. I'm questioning if he's correct or not. He called Lalita Saki as Sambhogecha Mai Gopi, and the example of Rupa Mandri as Tad Tad Bhavatsatma as serving her. But Lalita is not Sambhogecha Mai, isn't she? Is she? Because she's desiring to serve Radharani.
Krishna also married her. Do you know that?
Oh, okay. Okay. So she's got some of both. Okay. All right. Question from Janeshra Prabhu. When we went to Gaya, we offered to the forefathers. Is that okay? It is also Karma Kanda, isn't it?
Yes, generally that is Karma Kanda. But if you follow strictly Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we never hear that he followed Karma Kanda. It was a pretext to go and meet Ishwar Puri. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave an external reason for going to Gaya to his mother Sachimata. Otherwise, she would not allow him to go. That was the reason. Oh, I'm going to Gaya for the Pitru Sraddha. But we never hear he performed any of such activity of Karmakand, doing Pindadan and this and that. No, nothing. Are we doing any Shraddha ceremony after Prabhupada left? For Prabhupada? Is there any festival ordained to Prabhupada's Shraddha? We never did it. Because that is not that is our spiritual father for everyone. Grandfather, and everybody should perform if that is the spiritual practice. We never did. We are not doing even all these years. We celebrate as disappearance day, big festival, big feast.
Okay. Janesh was saying, thank you very much. He likes the answer, being aligned with our Sampradaya. Anyone else have a question or comment? It looks like we're okay, Guru Maharaj.
All right. Thank you very much. Prabhupada ki jai.
Okay, thank you.
Jai